thank you so much, Mayor Furey, for that incredible update in this really unprecedented time. Just with the few minutes that you spent giving us that update, it's apparent that this year is a year like no other, beyond all of the health details that we all are acutely aware of. So thank you for that update. And of course, loving quotes. I think your Kennedy quote that you started out with, the need to stay, to connect looking to the far horizon with maintaining the ability to deal with and focus on daily problems, was so well put in your presentation. And it's such a testament to the challenge that we all face in our individual businesses. And certainly that quote there about Torrance is one that I think we should have on t-shirts and hats and everything else. Kind people are our kind of people. That's fantastic. So thank you so much for your wonderful words. It's really great to hear from you. And now at this point in the program, I know that we have some questions that have been sent in. And so my role is just to sort of keep a little bit of order here, because it gets difficult with this many people on Zoom. And so I would like to invite those who have questions individually. I will call you to ask your questions and we'll just go from there. And so our very first question is from Mary Frances Trevelli with the Maritime Museum. And I believe that you're unmuted and are able to ask your question.
Thank you, Jack. Hi, Mayor Furey.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, fine. It seems like with every new legislative session in Sacramento, there is a rash of bills concerning zoning that, if passed, would strip Torrance and other communities of local control. Is the city of Torrance willing to commit financial resources to fight these kinds of bills in the future? Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. Committing financial resources is one thing, but it really takes a lot more than financial resources to do something at this level. For years now, whether it's through the National League of Cities, the California League of Cities, even the U.S. Conference of Mayors, we've done a number of resolutions demanding local control from state governments. And unfortunately, it has not gotten us far. Right now, there's a group of elected officials up and down the state that are mandating the same efforts. However, I really don't see it coming through our legislature. I think, if anything, this would be through the initiative process, where elected officials and citizens are going to have to get out there and get some signatures on petitions to get a proposition on the ballot, basically changing the Constitution of California and stating that local control would mandate all land use and zoning issues. Who better to know what a community needs as far as housing or even residential, commercial or industrial than the local leaders? Sacramento bureaucrats, it doesn't work that way. So I really don't think it needs the funding. I think it needs the sweat equity amongst elected leaders as well as volunteers throughout the state.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And our next question is from Michael Brink, CFO with Backham Americas.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. As you elaborated on earlier in the speech, due to COVID, there's a shortfall in revenue to the city from the mall closing and other businesses being closed. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how the city is handling the shortfall and what is being done moving forward?
Yes, it was a shocking thing to us as leaders to find out you're losing your income, as any business would, and the city of Torrance is definitely a big business. But we got together with staff and figured out a way to get around it. Of course, we had some reserves, and we have to strategically use the reserves. But cutting back on hiring, leaving jobs vacant, just pulling back the purse strings a little bit locally. But I think the biggest thing we did was our lease revenue bond. I don't know if you've heard about it, but we've sold a bond, or it's selling right now, which will gather about $350 million. And 300 million of that will be used to pay down our pension debt, and then we will be 90% funded on our pension. The other 50 million or so we'll be able to use to help us to balance the budget this year and as we go forward. And then, of course, we're also fighting or cajoling the administration as well as the Senate to do something with the HEROES Act because we need funding just like our residents do and our businesses do. And the federal government, they have the ability to make money. Unfortunately, we as a government, a local government, we have to have a balanced budget every year. And we're mandated to do that, as is the state. So we're doing absolutely everything we can. And we're meeting our budget. We're looking at it every 3 months rather than a 2-year period as we used to do. So we're keeping tabs on that. But I really think the lease revenue bonds is really going to be very, very helpful as we go forward, even after we get through the economic anomaly created by the pandemic.
Right. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And our next question is from Kirk Rosberg with Torrance Bakery.
Hi, Mayor. What is your vision of downtown Torrance during COVID and then also post-COVID?
Eating a donut from your store.
I like that.
As you know, and I think many people know, Old Torrance is very dear to my heart. I've always seen it as a jewel of our city, a place that can be the economic stimulus of the rest of the city, if you will. But my vision long out there is to downtown be a walkable area. And that, of course, will require us to have parking and parking structures as we go forward. I'd like to see a streetcar going up and down Satori, much like the Grove has, to make it a tourist area. But I think it's going to be important that we go forward because when the transit center is completed, and now it's expected to be August 15th, according to the contractor. When I stopped by there the other day and asked them, we're going to have people coming in to the transit center. Hopefully at the same time, we'll have our electric rubber tire trolleys that'll bring people to downtown Torrance. But right now, the alfresco dining, I've enjoyed every restaurant down there at least 3, 4, 5 times. And it's, we have to wait for a table now. So I'm enjoying it now. I look forward to post-COVID keeping that going if we could possibly do it. I think all the businesses down there are getting a little bit of more traction because of what we're doing there. And I think as we go forward and we resolve the parking issues and we resolve the transportation issues, I think you're going to be really, really in good stead being down there. Thank you, Kurt. And I'll be over later for my donut.
That's a solid plan for all of us. COVID cannot keep us from Torrance Bakery. We all need it in our life. So our next question is from Barbara Graham at the Torrance Refinery and Company.
Good afternoon, Mayor. How are you?
Good. How are you, Barbara?
I'm good, thank you. Mayor Furey, as the city of Torrance plans to safely reopen its businesses, do you have any concerns that the LA County Board of Supervisors motion to create independent health councils inside businesses is duplicative and will create additional burdens on Torrance businesses already negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, I do. In fact, we as an agency actually looked at maybe creating a public health agency amongst the city of Torrance. And when we did the research, and I really have to thank our staff for doing that, going back on the history of health departments, it goes back 100 years. And it actually, most of them had to start right before or during the last pandemic in 1918. And they're doing a wonderful job. The more agencies you get involved with it, then there's conflicting information, as we've seen with this. The state mandates something, the county makes an analysis of that, and then our staff has to look at that and make an analysis. And the less hands you have in the cooking, the better the bakery produces. And I think Kurt will adhere to that as well. So I think our relationship with our county public health department has shown that we can work our way through this. And I'm really impressed with how flexible Dr. Ferrer has been with the help of the Board of Supervisors, sometimes nudging her in the right way. I want to tell you a quick little story about our businesses. One of our businesses over at Wilson Park, the batting cages. The public health department shut him down because they said it was an amusement center. Well, we said, wait a minute, It's not like a bowling alley or an indoor. It's outdoors where they're hitting baseballs with a bat. And we went to Supervisor Hahn and explained it to her. And she said, yeah, it's more like a driving range. She went to Dr. Ferrer, and just Tuesday, Kevin Tyler from the batting cage called me up and said, thank you. Public Health was out here and they said, we're good to go. And so I have to thank Supervisor Hahn for making it work so fast that way. But, you know, cutting out some of the bureaucracy, I think, works a lot better, even for public health.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And our next question is from Gary Olney with Providence Little Company of Mary.
Good afternoon, Mayor. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Gary?
Good, good, good. My question is, what are the plans for the city to address any housing support or people suffering from homelessness as a result of, you know, the economic impacts of the pandemic?
Well, interestingly enough, homelessness and people suffering homelessness has been our radar for quite some time. A few years ago, I created, with the concurrence of my council, a social services commission to address a number of our census people, and one of which was homelessness. Unfortunately, they worked an awful lot on the veterans aspect of it, and by the time they got to homelessness, we were somewhat behind the eight ball on that. But they are now having hearings. In fact, just last night they were having a hearing, or it's tonight maybe, to take public input, get information on recommendations. We also just got a $50,000 grant from the South Bay Council of Government to help us with the financing of it. We're watching very carefully the Redondo Beach effort, having a homeless court as well as putting up their housing that they're going to be putting up. So we're moving along with that. It's a slow process. Government is always slow, but I'm always positive. I think we'll get to the goal eventually, and we'll do it the right way. You know, it's really painful that so many people are suffering homelessness, and with the pandemic and with the economic anomaly, we're obviously going to see more. But truly, we're trying to take care of those people who are less fortunate than the rest of us, and that's one of those elements.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for your support during this pandemic. I have to tell everybody, Gary and the gang at Little Company of Mary have been fantastic, providing us with information. As Torrance Memorial Medical Center, we meet on a regular basis and share that information. It really helps me as your mayor to be able to move forward and guide our city. I'm very appreciative.
Well, we appreciate all your support, so thank you.
That's such a wonderful framework that keeps getting echoed in all the answers: to stay resilient, to work united, and look forward. And we're seeing that in all the various questions and the information that you're able to provide back. So it's just it's a great feeling for Torrance to have that kind of leadership. So thank you, Mayor. Our next question is from Nancy Lesney with the Daily Breeze. Is she there and unmuted?
Hi there, Mayor Furey. I
Hi,
actually
Nancy.
have some questions for you. Hi there. Can you touch on your plans bring small businesses and stimulating growth here in Torrance? And secondly, what is the status of the Green Line extension?
Thank you. Two-part good questions, kind of like two questions, actually. You heard some of the things that we're doing for businesses, but we have a dynamic economic development department. They've been very, very helpful in bringing businesses in and keeping businesses here. Fran Fulton from there came up with a little grant program that we're giving out to our businesses to keep them running and up and running. And I think we've been doing a pretty great job with that. The Green Line is dear to my heart. I've been trying to get that here for all 12 years I've been in elected office. We are building out the transit center on Crenshaw Boulevard. As I mentioned, it'll be done August 15th. One more ribbon cutting over there. Hopefully the last ribbon cutting until the Green Line comes in. The good news is that it will be here by 2028, but I think it'll be here sooner than that, and thankful to Assemblyman Al Marisucci, who got some funding from our previous governor to stimulate that plan a little bit more. They're working through the details of how it will get here. I really think it'll come through the right of way, right down from the Marine Station to our transit center. But there's still some questions to Redondo Beach and Lawndale. Some people would like it to come down Hawthorne Boulevard. I think that'd be crazy because that would create even a worse headache for traffic on Hawthorne Boulevard. And we got the railroad right away. Metro already has the rights to put the train tracks there. So as we're going through this, the EIR process, we'll be pushing Metro to bring it here as soon as possible. We really look forward to having that element of transit coming to our city, where you can come to Torrance on the Green Line, get off and get on one of maybe our rubber tire trolleys and go to downtown Torrance, or go to one of the hotels, maybe to the Alamo Fashion Center, or maybe stop by City Hall, or maybe just go out to the beach if you like. And so I think that'll change the mobility of the South Bay and Torrance. So I'm looking forward to the future. I hope it's not 2028, but if it's 2028, I'll be there. I'll have my tap card to get on that train as fast as anybody else. I hope I'll be one of the first on there.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. And I think we have time for one more question. And our final question today will come from Giancarlo Fernandez, with the president of the Associated Students Organization at El Camino College.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor Furey.
Hi.
You have had a lengthy and distinguished career in politics and public service. You're a distinguished alumnus from El Camino College. So as a current student, I'm honored to ask you this question. As community college students in our early 20s, my friends and I are learning about civic involvement and exploring ways to serve in the community. So with everything you have learned over the course of your career in public service, what advice would you give a young Pat Furey in his early 20s? What would you want him to know that will be helpful to my generation too?
Well, thank you for a great question. And thank you. It's an honor to be asked a question by one of the students at my favorite school, El Camino College. And ironically, I actually did that one time because I have a son who's named Pat Furey. And when he was about 20 years old, I gave him the guidance. And I would say the same to you, is get involved. Get involved in your school right now. ASB has a great program. One of the best things I ever did at El Camino, and it was an accident. I took a course in journalism and wound up being a writer for the newspaper at the time, and got to meet everybody on campus and got involved in the campus life at El Camino College. We transitioned that onto your business life the same way, getting involved in your community. Volunteer for nonprofits. You meet so many people, and they help you out in what you want to do in the future, and you help them out right now. And I met so many people over the years of my volunteer service, whether it was for the Torrance Education Foundation, my local homeowners association, or the city as a commissioner, or the school district as a commissioner, or just working for nonprofits. Relay for Life and in Torrance is a great organization where you can help out, and it's not all of your time. You have to take care of your studies as well. And one of the things I always tell students, whether they're in college or they're in high school, is if your goal right now is to do something and something occurs that for some reason that's not going to be your career, your profession, don't worry about it. Just go to something else, because there's so many places out there where you can do something. And when you find that something and you fall in love with that something, whether it was like me when I was a police officer, or when I was a prosecutor, or when I wrote for newspapers, or when I got elected to the city council and eventually became the mayor. As long as you enjoy what you're doing, I think your career path will just lay out there for you. And whenever you need anything, anybody at El Camino College has the right to contact your fellow alumni, Mayor Pat Furey.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Great job, Mayor Furey. I agree. Go with your passion wherever you can. You'll find much more joy when you do that. It's never about the money. Thank you for your inspirational address and for your thoughtful answers to all the questions. I too am looking forward to next year when we can all get together and break bread at your next state of the city. I'd like to thank Jack Folkart, our past chair. I forgot to mention you, Jack. I'm sorry when I mentioned all the other past chairs. For her leadership with the Q&A, you always do a great job, and you're always great with the quotes. So appreciate that. They're always inspiring. Again, I'd like to thank the sponsors for this event. Again, special thanks to our presenting sponsor, California Water Service Company. Of course, this doesn't get done without Michael Smith and the Torrance City Cable for airing this event. And of course, the Torrance Area Chamber of Commerce, the hardworking staff, Donna and all the crew there do a wonderful job. I'd like to thank you all for coming. This was great. We had like well north of 200 people there. You're a popular guy, Mayor. So I hope everybody has a wonderful day and take care. Be good to each other.
And be safe, everybody.